What do you think of that?
I think you're sick.
What?
I predict you're the one who's gonna get sick.
I'm gonna get sick?
Yes, I feel you have a lump, a clot in your back, and it's moving, growing, and moving up into your neck.
Well, will it go away? Am I gonna get better?
No, definitely not.
No, come on.
No, it's gonna move into your neck and choke you, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Hello, telepsychic.
Hello. Listen, my favorite show is Saturday night, and I was wondering if you could tell me how they're going to start the show this week.
Okay. Live from New York, it's Saturday night.
Hello and welcome to the Not Ready for Primetime Project. We're Gary Seath and Brad Robinson.
Here now, the podcast.
This week, we're talking about the early years. Season 4, Episode 8, with host Eric Idle and musical guest Kate Bush. This show originally aired on December 9th, 1978. Brad?
Wait, that's not one, but two British people?
I was just about to say, it's an all, not even British, English. It's an all English show. Musical guest and host.
Oh, there's a difference.
Oh, we're not going to get into that. But yes,
Shit.
There's a difference.
Okay.
So who better to bring in than our British or English correspondent?
I could think of no one else.
I like to think myself as the English correspondent.
He is.
There is a difference.
You are.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the latest member of the Five Timers Club, Thomas Sena. Wait, is that an audience? He gets
Yes.
an audience applause? Oh my
He gets
God.
an audience.
I bring my own
applause,
audience with me.
yes. Someone around here needs to get applause.
Well
And
played,
it may as
sir.
well be
Yeah,
Thomas. And it really
Yeah,
should
exactly.
be Thomas.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. Brad, thank you. Thank you for the jacket. I just got it in the mail. Really good timing.
Fits well.
So thanks, guys. Thanks for having me back. I appreciate it. I absolutely love coming on this show.
Oh, good. We love having you because
So
that
does
means
the
we're not
audience.
just talking to one another. Yes. So Eric Idle's back.
Mhm.
This is fun. We haven't seen him in a couple seasons now, right? Is that right, Brad?
He was MIA season 3. Yeah.
Was he off doing something other than hosting one of Lauren's shows?
He's making some movies and such.
I would ask him, but he'd probably just refer me to his book and scold me for not having read it.
This tracks. Yeah.
Especially if he knew you were associated with us in any way.
No, I love Eric, and I'm so excited about this episode. Which honestly, I didn't really go back and do a complete comparison, but this might be my favorite one
It's
so
pretty
far
good.
of his.
It's
It
pretty
is
good.
pretty-
And it fits well into the season. Like, we kind of needed this.
Yeah, you needed someone like Eric Idle to come in and host the show right now. This season has been up and down, and coming off of Walter Matthau, there's no better rebound than Eric Idle, really.
Yeah.
And Kate Bush.
We shouldn't just gloss over the musical guest in this episode because it's like a historic kind of thing that SNL still kind of has some bragging rights in a way in 2025 with this particular musical guest.
It's still the only time, right? Kate Bush's only appearance on U.S. television, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think around this time was when she started laying the groundwork to have a career resurgence 40 years later as part of a streaming only show.
Right.
She's got to look long. It's a long vision.
Yeah. But it's awesome. I mean, I like Kate Bush. I'm not a huge Kate Bush super fan. Thomas, I feel like this is someone that you like.
Yeah. And I think I found out about her because I had like a lot of music nerd friends. I made a lot of friends going to music festivals and stuff, and everybody kept telling me you should listen to Kate Bush and everything. So I like Hounds of Love and everything from her debut through the late 80s. She was putting out good stuff. So I do like Kate Bush. She's not for everybody. She does have, her voice isn't she's not going to win American Idol, even though I like her voice. She just doesn't have she has an interesting voice.
It's unique.
She's a unique sounding voice.
Yeah, exactly.
That I personally enjoy.
Yeah. And it's great to see her on this show. And I'm really happy for you that you get to come on with us and you won't get yelled at for liking the musical guest this time. Probably by Brad. I don't know. I don't know what Brad has up his sleeve.
I have no idea. I'm fully prepared to get yelled at by Brad for some
the
reason,
hell?
whether it's the musical guest or
Thomas is
You know.
coming in hot. Jesus.
Well,
And Eric Idle's just here to hang out.
apparently.
Friend of Lauren. Yeah, just here to hang out.
He makes reference to being friends with Lauren when someone asks him about
Nothing
that.
better to do this week.
Yeah.
Host the show.
Why not?
Yeah.
Well, should we get into it?
Let's do it.
All right. Well, the cold open starts with Dan hosting a talk show called Telepsychic, where he is Ray and he's just taking calls from callers about their futures. This is very reminiscent of a Buck Henry sketch
Yes.
from season 2, maybe season 1. I forget. That was early in the show.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just Dan answering phones. I thought this was a lot of fun. I think, again, it's Dan, so you can't, in my opinion, really go wrong with this.
Yeah, I really when I see a slime ball character by Aykroyd, I'm in right away. I love all his like Erwin Mainway, which, sneak preview, but I just love Dan's like absolute slime ball characters. And it just dawned on me that his name's Ray and this is like almost a telepsychic, like Ghostbusters kind of.
That's good.
Foreshadowing. I don't know. Just like literally a few seconds ago dawned on me, but I'm just totally in with this right away.
I didn't love this one that much. I understand what you're saying about the slime ball characterness of it all, but Dan's making up the answers as he goes along, as you can tell, but he doesn't have like the confidence I wanted in like a typical Dan Aykroyd slimeball character where he knows he's wrong. So I don't know, just something about that. I couldn't bite into it as much as the two you guys did, but it was still, again, it's still good. It's still Dan, and they'll come back to this. They do this at least one more time.
I agree with you, Brad. In a way, I wanted it to build more. And so I was kind of surprised when it went right to the live from New York.
Yeah, it went a little long because I had the same thing. I kept waiting for it to take that next step to something, and then it didn't. It just went right into the live from New York. And I was like, oh, okay.
I wanted it to actually keep going because I wanted it to build, but
like if it had something else, I was like, that just build wasn't there. But that's the performance. It was like he was almost if he would have leaned into the lie more, it would have been. I think I would have enjoyed it better.
Exactly, yeah. But it was fun, and it was a fun way to kick off the show because Dan's that good.
Oh yeah,
this is an example to me, guys, of like what I look for out of an SNL cold open. It's like nothing spectacular. It's good at warming up the audience. It doesn't overstay its welcome. I prefer that. Like I don't expect anything real great from the cold opens, but just something to warm up the crowd a little bit. Like, hey, we're going to do some sketch comedy tonight. And so I think this was like almost the content so, but I think what I look for in a cold open, I really enjoyed this.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
It is, to your point, Thomas,
a
cold open, a great way to warm up the show and the crowd.
And they do an organic bit of getting him into live from New York. So that, like to Thomas's point again, it does everything it needs to do to get you to that point and ramp up. Yeah. Well,
from there, we get our monologue. So I almost called him Idol because I just wrote Idol down for everything. So Idol comes out and he just comes out and he's waiting for the monologue at this point because the writers haven't written it. And then it turns into a whole backstage gag. He has Howard Shore and the band play a number while he goes backstage to look for Lorne, who's being interviewed by Tom Schiller, right? That's Schiller?
Yeah, it's Schiller.
Yeah.
Glass of wine in his hand.
Talks to Davey Wilson. Like, yes. There's a lot going on backstage. So we're backstage for a while. He goes and finds Lorne. Lorne tells him to find the writers. He finds Belushi getting a massage. He finds the writer's room, which is like an opium den, which is hilarious.
He walks past Abe Lincoln hanging out backstage.
Yeah. Abe Lincoln, a random horse.
Is this our first Abe Lincoln?
I don't think so.
Not Bill. I know Bill did it in the audience once, but is this our first random Abe Lincoln?
Maybe that's what I was thinking.
Like backstage Abe Lincoln. Yeah. This was there. There wasn't a showgirl or a llama.
There was a horse,
point, right?
There was a horse for no reason.
Yep.
Eric's like, we cut that bit as he walks by.
Yeah.
This is the one where they start adding this stuff into the hallway for no reason other than laughs.
Right.
Yeah. I just didn't know when the Abe Lincoln, llama, and showgirl became like SNL canon.
Right.
But I was surprised that I saw Abe Lincoln backstage like this early in season 4.
I think this is the Abe Lincoln. We have not seen a llama, and I couldn't tell if there was a showgirl or two hanging out back there. There might have been deep. I don't know.
Yeah. But he runs into most of the cast and talks to them and interacts with them in some way. This is where he mentions to Gilda that he's a friend of Lauren's and that's why he's hosting the show. And then Bill kind of gives him a great Bill Murray pep talk telling him that he is funny and it doesn't matter what he does. It'll be funny and get back out there on stage. And so he does. Tells a story about being in Tunisia, which is true, right? They were in Tunisia filming
Life of Brian. It's not a funny story. It's just a true story.
It's just a true story, yes, about finding a 2,300-year-old vase, and then he just smashes it. And that's our monologue.
Yeah.
It was a long monologue.
It's very long, and it's very out there. It's season 4. He at one point even says the writers take too many drugs. That's why he doesn't have the monologue. It's very like they're not hiding it anymore. It's very season 4, like brazenly calling out the drug use. And then you go see as you mentioned, the writers' room is like an opium den. It's pretty nuts.
Am I off base or out of line to say that it was too long of a monologue?
I don't think so. I'm with you, Thomas.
Okay.
I think it was a little long.
Yeah, I know. I really like the idea of the writers, the whole premise of like they haven't written anything because they do a lot of drugs. And then him going backstage. I love a backstage monologue, especially season 4.
Yeah.
Had to be one of the earliest examples of a backstage monologue that they have. But I really do wish that he didn't actually start doing a monologue.
Yeah.
They would have just cut it. But him just doing a monologue, he was like, all right, dude, like, let's just start the show because this is running a little long. So I didn't enjoy that part of it. Good idea, but just so long.
Yeah.
Because the Bill Murray part is great. Bill pumping him up, being classic Bill Murray, and like getting him on stage and getting the crowd riled up. Like that would have been an awesome, like to your point, Thomas, a point to end on, applause, and like, we'll be right back. Cause then that's where it did start to feel a little long. I agree with the Tunisia story and the vase, and you could have ended it on a little bit of a higher point, maybe. Yeah.
I think so. That would have been a great way to move it on. Just talks to Bill and then goes on.
And let's give Davey Wilson credit. He has a great line. Eric's running through it. He goes, I have a note for you, Eric. And he pulls out a script. This scene, could you be funnier? And like him and Eric talk about being funny. Davey was really great.
It's funny that's the director telling him that. Like that's a director's note.
But I like that
somehow
they go to the control room and the director is telling jokes to the rest of the crew. Like they're not doing anything with the show. He's telling them a joke about a monkey. And the monkey said, I already ate breakfast. That was his punchline.
I love Belushi too. Belushi had a good line where when he's getting the massage and he's talking about how the writers are, quote, jealous like the rest of them.
Yeah.
So that there might have been, I don't know, that might have been real Belushi thoughts coming out there.
Probably.
He is not featured that much this episode.
No.
He's not. No. But it's a bunch of those little things that they were fun, and it was a bunch of little jokes, but overall it just felt like a little long and could have moved on sooner. But to start the show off proper, we get an all-timer. Just an all-time sketch. All I really have to say is it's the French chef with Dan as Julia Child.
Oh, well, anyway, it's time to bone the chicken. Now, for this, you need a very sharp knife. Can't do nothing without a sharp knife. Now, you place the chicken on its stomach and cut along the backbone to the Pope's nose like so. Oh! Now I've done it. I've cut the dickens out of my finger. Well, I'm glad in a way this happened. Accidents do occur from time to time in the kitchen. We've never really discussed what to do. First, you must stop the bleeding. The best way is with direct pressure on the apron like so. Now, you want to raise your hand over your head so the blood has to be pumped all the way up. Oh, the apron doesn't seem to be working, so I'd recommend natural coagulants such as chicken liver. Another reason not to throw away the liver. Oh God, it's throbbing. Tourniquet, that's it. Yes, a tourniquet can be made of cheesecloth and a chicken bone. Find a pressure point between the heart and the wound. In this case, the wrist, and cut off the blood. Oh, this is a last resort, however, because you could lose your hand if you tighten it too much. Oh, you're too woozy to tie the tourniquets. Going to call for emergency help. There's not much time left. Now, every kitchen should have the emergency number written on it somewhere. Oh, this one doesn't. 911. This phone is a prop. It doesn't work. That's a shame because I'm remembering a time when I was a little girl and I had a dog named Amber. I used to give him liver, and my mother gave me a doll. Why are you all spinning? Well, I think I'm going to go to sleep now. Bon appetit.
It's so much fun to watch this in the context as it was originally aired, I thought.
Yeah, it's a great way to start. We mentioned they wrote this last week. Franken and Davis did for Walter Matthau. He turned it down, didn't want to do it. They got Dan to do it. Dan stepped in. They did during Dress, never made it to air. I love it. Fits in so well for whatever reason in an Eric Idle episode. It's like a perfect way to kick this episode off. And to Thomas's point, cold open into your monologue, and then you get this. It's like everything's firing on all cylinders.
Yeah. Great start to the episode. It's been a long time since I actually saw this sketch in full, because you see like clips packages or you see, I don't know, random YouTube channels saying great moments in SNL history, and they'll show like just a little snippet of the sketch. I hadn't seen the full sketch in a long time. There's so much blood. I totally forgot how bloody and dark this sketch actually got. I forgot that Julia actually died at the end.
Yeah.
My favorite line is one that doesn't make the cuts. It's where she reaches, make sure you always have the emergency number on the phone. She reaches for the phone. She goes, "Oh, this phone is a prop. It doesn't work."
This phone's a prop. I love how she pivots from giving cooking instructions, but she still uses the cadence, and she just pivots to what to do when you cut yourself. Yeah. So she's like, raise your hand so the blood pumps up, but she's giving it like she would give a cooking instruction. Like that was like beautifully delivered by Dan.
I love how he's like, use a natural coagulant like a liver. Don't throw away the liver.
Do not throw away the liver.
It's just brilliant. And it's not too long. It's not too short. No. It really feels like the perfect length sketch to me.
And they do a great job with the blood. Like Thomas mentioned, there is just so much blood everywhere. It is such an obnoxious thing. I think they even said at some point they were having problems trying to figure it out. And Tom Davis is the one who eventually went under the tabletop and was actually working the hose.
And I had to go back and check because by the end of the sketch, I noticed like her face was super white, like as she was dying. But I went back and I think they did start it off. Like, I don't know. They did like really cake on the white makeup. So then once she starts dying, you really notice it. You don't really notice it too much at the beginning, but then you're like, oh my gosh, she's like about to pass out. And it seems like she's really pale throughout the sketch.
Oh, it's so good.
There's like attention to detail that I really enjoy.
Yeah, I'm with you. That's great.
It's like something like this. It's so small, one person, but it's like you said, there's details. It's all those little details things just like really elevate this to something special.
And it's Dan again.
And it's Dan.
Two sketches of just him to camera. It's a great way to start the show. Well, then Garrett comes on. He's sitting in a nice chair talking about last week he sang an operetta for us. And this week they're going to do it again. And he introduces Eric, Bill, Jane, and Lorraine to sing a madrigal, the ship that was put to sea. And it's just the four of them singing in choir robes, a cappella. Quite well, I would say.
Yeah. Probably maybe too well for what they were maybe, I think, trying to do.
Perhaps.
Honestly, if one of you can explain to me what they were trying to do, I would really appreciate it, by the way.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think the whole joke was that they were singing and then the ship sank. That was it. Like, that was, I guess, it.
The ship sinks at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was short and funny.
It was.
The faces are funny because Eric and Bill are in the front, and Eric's got this kind of crazy, bug-eyed, wide look as he's singing. And Bill's got that dead serious face, but when he's not serious, it's like his fake serious face. So you're trying to gauge like what are they doing, and to Thomas's point, what are they trying to accomplish here?
Yeah, what's happening?
Yeah, I guess it was the facial expressions. Maybe I thought maybe they were trying to link it to Garrett actually singing well the week prior, so it was like you were supposed to have watched the week prior. But if that's the case, I think Eric, Bill, Lorraine, and Jane were like singing too well. So then I didn't quite know because they weren't bad. Like to your point, Gary, like they were actually like doing a pretty good job of harmonizing and singing and whatnot. So I was kind of stumped. It was a good thing it was short, but I was just a little stumped as to why this was even happening.
Yeah.
It's almost like this was too short. It just started getting funny at the end with them trading the verses quicker and the facial expressions, and then they stopped. It was almost like if it was building and just cut a little early.
I agree.
In my opinion, they probably could have taken some time out of the next sketch and added it to the madrigal. So we get The Woman He Loved, which is a show that is introduced, and it is a show about Prince Charles living Here we go, Brad. I'll tee you up.
Oh,
Living with a 13-year-old girl in the southern U.S.
I didn't have it for this sketch. I had it for something else. I didn't have it for this sketch.
Really?
I think it was so absurd of Prince Charles living in a trailer with a 13-year-old. I couldn't even muster up the joke, but
Okay. I mean, that's the premise. I don't know if there's any backstory to this. I'm sure we'll get an angry email from someone if there was, but
I actually wondered if this sketch got cut shorter for time, the way it ends. Like you're saying it's a long sketch, and I actually thought that there was a missing part to the end of this sketch that, like, due to time, they just shrunk it and didn't put it in.
well, there's like, Dan comes in as a cop. John comes in as some other trailer guy looking for his wife. And then it turns into a drama, really, when he finds, we should say Eric's playing Prince Charles. Just
Yeah. This is Vonda Walker, and I'm Prince Charles.
Yeah. And then he finds out that she hid her birth control pills. And so he panics and she says she wants to marry him. So he has to go ask his mother. And then there's a sequence of him getting on a bus, taking it to the Concorde, to Buckingham Palace, taking the Concorde back. Yeah, that was a good chunk of the bit.
I did write the quote unquote travel montage was funny. You see a bus down the street back and forth. It's funny.
All just to come back and say, "Oh, my mom says no. She's against it." Like
that's what I said. It was such a long build of the two of them in that trailer for him just to come back and be like, "She said no." That's why I felt there had to be more that just cut out for time because it was such a short ending. I think that's like
the British humor. They're just like a well drawn out thing just for like just a little bit of of information and a joke. My favorite thing about this sketch was that I just love how Prince Charles was seemingly like part of the community. Yeah. Like interacting with everybody just like respectfully, like they know each other. John's character calls him Charlie.
Yeah.
So there's a familiarity, and it's almost as like a matter of fact, like I'm just part of this Mississippi community as Prince Charles, and I'm interacting with everybody earnestly. So I liked how they played that like very earnestly.
Well, and to that point in the details, Thomas, there's the one moment where he grabs the apron and puts the apron over his British uniform as he's working the stove. It's just, he just falls in as naturally as one could to that setting.
I liked she really wanted to have the baby, the next King Daryl.
I thought this sketch was better than it probably was on paper. Like it played out better than I would have thought if you would have just told me like what the premise was.
It plays out really well. Yeah,
I guess I wasn't a huge fan of this one. Because I guess the whole setup just felt long. And to your point, Brad, it does cut off quickly, but I think that was on purpose.
Yeah,
you're probably right. Because that setup was so long, it just did feel like a jarring short ending to me.
Well, Eric Idle comes back out to introduce Kate Bush for her first U.S. appearance, and she comes on and is on Paul Schaefer's piano to sing "The Man with the Child in His Eyes."
Do you think that was a purposeful link between the previous sketch and this song? Because that's what the song's about.
I wasn't sure. I did think that when I was listening to this song. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it crossed my mind, but I wasn't sure if that was how intentional that was.
Yeah. Like Kate Bush wrote it when I think she was actually 13.
13.
When she wrote this song. And the character in the previous sketch was 13. I mean, I don't want to give them too much credit for a thematic link between a sketch and a musical guest, but I just found that interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's a very good performance. I think, like you said, Thomas, she has a unique voice, but I really like it.
It was fine. I understand that Kate Bush is a really talented performer. I've just never heard her music that much. I don't know it that well. So it was interesting for me to watch. I didn't love it, but I think she's an amazing performer. She's like barely 20 years old at this point. That's the thing I took. I just took away this kid being in this position. Obviously, it's the first time she's ever on American television, ends up being the only time. But just, I thought she handled herself and just as a performer was really good.
Mm-hmm.
But music-wise, I couldn't.
Yeah, just a lot of presence.
Yeah.
You're right, Brad. She has really, really good presence, and basically the performance was her just sitting on the piano and just kind of moving around and sitting in different positions and doing, but there's just something, I think there was just something really watchable about her. You can't turn your eyes away from her. And I've read like a little backstory on like her SNL performance and stuff. Like this was really influential for a few people as far as like young budding musicians and stuff. Like, what is this? Like this is like, I think Natalie Merchant said that she was like super influenced by this. Like, so it was, like, there's something about Kate Bush just on screen performing like that that's like really compelling to a lot of people. And I can see why.
And it wasn't just the gold sequin full bodysuit she was wearing.
Not just that.
Not just that.
You're right.
But it's weird. The performance itself didn't really propel her in the US. She was a biggest star in the UK at that point. This album had come out. I think she had like a top 5 album, if not number 1. But it never really clicked like in the US. We talked earlier season, like Devo came on the show and it really propelled them. But for whatever reason, she didn't really, I guess, click with the American audiences because it took her a while before she kind of gained in popularity over here.
I get the impression that a lot of that was her choice.
Oh, you think?
Yeah, I think a lot of that she didn't care about being popular in the US. She had said as much, and she like actively just sort of tried to like stay across the pond and like make a career out of that. And she really like I think she said no to a lot of opportunities to perform in the US and also, so I think it was almost like her choice. It just not really wanting to. I mean, that's an interesting choice because, you know, that like, you know, it would probably have made her more money and stuff. But I think that it did seem like it was by design on Kate Bush's part. But this was my, out of the 2 performances, I enjoyed this one the least. So I think the next one was a little better.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of with Brad in that regard, but overall thumbs up for this.
Well, from here we go to the game show. What do you, and this is Eric Idle hosting a game show with Tom Schiller as Lord Lupus and Gilda as Duchess of Detroit. And Idle explains the rules, which are just a series of sound effects. He says, with if a contestant does, and then plays a sound effect, and then they will, another sound effect.
We'll just play a clip here.
Right after I say, and then sound effect, and then another sound effect.
People in the control room, that's your cue to play the clip.
Play the clip.
Yep.
They're telling monkey jokes in the control room.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of What Do You? A new game show loosely based on all the old game shows. The rules are very simple. Each week we shall ask a team of 2 personalities, Lord Lupus. Hello. And the Deaconess of Detroit. Hello. A series of questions in either category, or special category. If they get it right, they get a... And if they get the wrong answer, they get a from the studio audience. At the end of the contest, they will hear this, and they must stop immediately. At any point in the proceedings, they may be given a, which means they can ask for another question, or if they hear a, it's the fire alarm.
That's what this sketch was. It was very, to me, very Python, very Eric Idle, very British.
Yeah. It's an Eric Idle piece. This was on a show called Do Not Adjust Your Set, which predates Python, that Eric was on with, I think it was on Michael Palin and Terry Jones, and I think Terry Gilliam got on. It was like for Thomas, as your people call it, series. They did 2 series of this show.
Correct.
But this was on the very first episode of that show, Do Not Adjust Your Set. And then he's repurposed it a couple times. It's on like a Python album earlier in the 70s, but it's very, like you said, Gary, it's very Eric Idle.
Yeah, a little cheesy, but it's kind of fun. I think as a production nerd, I liked like that there was like almost perfect timing with like the sound effects from the control room, and like from a production standpoint, it was pretty impressive that they didn't screw up one of those sound effects. I don't think.
I agree. They did a very good job with that. That was fun to watch, and you knew where this was going after it kept going for a few minutes, but it was still fun.
Yeah,
it's cheesy, but it holds up. This sketch is 10 years old, and I think it's still like it's fun watching it at this point.
I mean, we're watching it, 50 years later, so it's
it's still funny.
Yeah,
it's still fun.
It works.
It reminds me, you know what? The sketch reminded me of how Eric Idle has said that Dan Aykroyd was the one cast member who could have been a Python, because I think Dan's the only other person in the building that could have done Eric's role in this sketch. Like it's such a specific talent, and I just was watching him and I was like, because I'm always like, oh, who else could do this? And Dan's the only one that could come close.
Totally.
Yeah, it's that cadence and delivery, kind of the precise nature of a lot of the delivery. Like even though it's a little British, I think, to Eric Idle's point, but I agree with him. But it's just that like the preciseness of Dan and the preciseness of a lot of this British humor or English humor, rather. Excuse me.
Excuse you. Question for you guys. I had a note at this point. And Thomas, you've been with us a bunch already. Does this show have a season 2 vibe for you? I was getting like season 2, like it's a lot of quick sketches. We've been getting a lot of longer sketches season 4. We're getting quick sketches. They're kind of fun, bizarre sketches. The musical act, somebody that's not well known in the US, you don't know it. I don't know. Did either of you guys kind of get something like that?
Yeah, I can see that. I think it feels season 2-ish in terms of tone and quality, if I'm being honest. Like, I think this would fit very well in season 2. And so I actually definitely agree with that.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about it, Brad, but now that you say that, I think so. And we haven't seen Idol since season 2 either, which you mentioned. So
even the sets are small. We don't have these season 4 big sets, that's all kind of small 2-wall sets, but everything's working really well.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, now it's time for Weekend Update, brought to you by Reincarnation, the evaporated milk from dead cows. I did enjoy that joke.
Yeah. That's kind of up my alley.
Yeah.
Silly, dumb joke. I like it.
It was fun. We get, Jane doing a bunch of jokes in the beginning about Ronald Reagan, San Francisco residents, and Tony Bennett moving his heart somewhere else. And then we get Bill. He comes on and he does a celebrity corner with Gilda as Valerie Harper talking about how her show, Rhoda, had just been canceled. This was fun. I thought Gilda was very good as Valerie Harper.
Yeah, we've seen her do this once before. She does a good impression.
Yeah.
No, I'm not too familiar with Rhoda or Valerie Harper necessarily, but even with that said, I really enjoyed this. She, I just like the whole premise and her summing it up almost like is a really good line when she's kind of like giving that confused look. I'm a shiksa? Yeah. Why do I talk like this? Like, I just love that like delivery like that. That line had me cracking up. So,
it was good.
Not familiar with Valerie Harper necessarily or Rhoda, but it was still like really enjoyable for me.
Have they done this before, Gary? And I just missed it. When he's talking to her, Bill's talking to Gilda, he has his back turned and he's looking at the screen, which is a blue screen. So he's not actually looking at her. And then she's looking off camera in his direction. Has he done that before with the other ones? And I just never picked up on it because it's just so noticeable this time that they were trying to sell that gimmick.
Mm-hmm. It was. I feel like they went to the tight shot on John more than they did on this one. This one they stayed in that 2 shot.
Oh, okay.
So it was more noticeable because of that. Okay. But he does always turn as though he's looking at them. Yeah, it's funny. We get a couple more jokes about Christmas saving and changing the clock so that there's more time for shoppers. And then we get, I believe, our first appearance of Chico Escuela at the Weekend Update desk, right?
Yeah. Now he plays for the Mets.
Now he plays, right. First time we saw him, he played for the Cubs.
Mm-hmm.
And football. I don't know football. In Dominican Republic, football is, how you say, soccer. Your football? I don't know. In National Hockey League? I don't know.
But this was fun. I mean, I thought, a really fun way to kick off Chico Escuela at the Weekend Update desk.
Yeah, we saw him in the Brian Dole Murray sketch, The Knights of Columbus. Fun character. Alan Zweibel saw that and told Brian they wanted to move him to Weekend Update. And I think they do a great job with it. And it's really nice to see Garrett shine on something. It's a really great Garrett piece.
Yeah, I always love this character from Garrett. It's quite classic and memorable for a reason. And it like awkward timing at the beginning a little bit. And I think when he said, "Thank you, Hayne," like I think he was supposed to say that earlier. Then he kind of started his bit and then he caught himself. And I think he went back and said the line. But, once he got kind of those jitters out, I think it just sort of sailed. I think this was a really, really good debut. Like, I just love his delivery. He's like, football? I don't know football. Like, he's just, and same with the NHL. He doesn't know NHL. He just knows baseball.
Yeah, then they cut to the NHL. It was great.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so good. It really was like,
yeah,
perfect.
Garrett just had such great timing with this character. You could tell it seems like it's really lived in and he really enjoyed doing it.
Not only is Garrett really good, but then they have a great topper on this where he's done and they cut to Jane and she goes, I'm glad we haven't hired just another stupid ex-jock sports announcer. How great is Jade? It's like perfect. She's got another one up her sleeve coming up too, though.
So she starts a commentary then about the ERA, the Equal Rights Amendment, not being passed. And she believes that women around the country should put a moratorium on oral sex. And Bill jumps in and starts pushing back on her. And now we have like a little back and forth with the two of them that is different than point counterpoint, but also kind of similar in some ways. And it was a little odd at first, but I thought it ended up working for me.
Totally.
Yeah, I thought this was okay. If I'm going to nitpick, and I'm kind of going back and forth on this, and I don't know if it would have been more cliche, but I thought it might have been a little funnier if Jane didn't take Bill's threat as a threat at all, because Bill said something like his counter proposal essentially was of men not performing oral sex on women, and I kind of thought maybe Jane could have just been like, that wasn't a threat at all or something like that. But the way she reacted, it was like, okay, like. Now, I don't know. I just thought maybe they could have gone a different way. But again, I'm not a writer, and that might have been more cliche. But I thought that might have been maybe just a tad funnier way to go.
But if you didn't have that, we wouldn't have gotten Bill's reaction once he turns Jane, which is priceless. And the crowd loved it when he's like, "Oh, thanks, Jane." Like there's this swarmy Bill showed up, and that was the best part, to the point of like building, and it ends with Bill one-upping her. I thought was great.
Yeah, just kind of like a self-satisfied, no pun intended, reaction.
That's a really good point, Brad.
It's a line only Bill Murray could deliver that way, you know?
Yeah, you're right. I was agreeing with Thomas. Like that was my thought too, Thomas. But now you're right, Brad. That was a good way to tie a bow on that.
You've won me over, Brad.
Yeah. Good job, Brad. But then he talks about Mayor Koch having a year to have cleaned up New York City, and they've started on 42nd Street. So here to offer his commentary on the cleaning up of 42nd Street is Father Guido Sarducci.
This is why he's so great.
Yeah. It's funny. He starts talking about he saw a sign for nude wrestling, and for $20 you can wrestle in the nude for half an hour. And it was really because I didn't know where he was going with this at first.
No.
Go behind the curtain. They have like 4 little rooms. It says you take off your clothes and come out to fighting when you hear the bell ring. Well, I go under there. I'm waiting, it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I'm cold. I thought, maybe she was like doing some calisthenics, getting loosened up, something like that. That wasn't the case. You know what they do there at that nude wrestling place? They make you wait till another customer comes in. That guy, he was as shocked as me, when we come out of there, you know what I mean? Should have seen the look on his face, I'm telling you. Anyway, I wanted 2 out of 3, though. $20 in investment, just can't waste it, right?
This was my loudest laugh I may have had all season when he's like, that guy, he was as shocked as me. Only to be topped by, anyway, I won 2 out of 3.
Yes.
It's brilliant.
Yeah, him noting that he actually won 2 out of 3 falls was like the perfect, like Don Novello's so good at this character. You just never know where he's going. That's like Gary. That's like what I love about Father Guido Sarducci. He'll start one place and they'll establish a premise, and it's just like I don't know where he's going to take this, and that's like it's a fun ride whenever he comes on.
Yeah,
I went from laugh out loud to howling. That's so funny. And in his delivery, it's just every line is gold.
Yeah, that is so funny. It's really good.
But this is why he's so great, Gary. Remember last time we saw him, he did kind of it was like a biting satire on the Catholic Church. It was almost too serious.
Yeah.
This is when I think Father Guido Sarducci is great, when he's just so silly and absurd.
Yeah.
It's just so funny.
Then he brings out the Apple lighter at the end to talk about the souvenirs you can get on 42nd Street.
Yeah, I'm like, that thing's kind of cool, actually.
That thing is totally cool.
It is really
right?
cool.
Yes.
I've
You
never
just
seen
pull
one
the
of
stem
those.
out. No, it's awesome.
I've been to Times Square a few times. I've been walked into gift shops. I've never seen one of those. That's so cool.
Oh,
so
And then he starts
hilarious.
comparing prices, right? I was still laughing
Yeah.
from the nude wrestling. That's right.
Yeah, he starts talking about how he found this one for $12 and you can get them for like $12.50 in another place, whatever. But yeah, he starts talking about the prices there.
Good for some things, bad for others. I don't know. Take it or leave it.
Yeah.
There's a reason when I was a kid that Father Guido Sarducci was like one of the characters from these early years who really who I knew about and who really stuck with me. Like just the whole visual of him and just his delivery. Like this is such a fun character.
It's so good.
And that wraps up what was, I think, a longer but really good weekend update.
I agree on both accounts. Long, but good. Yeah. The pieces were all great. They were all good pieces.
Yeah. And I felt like some of the jokes were just there to kind of move you along and give a minute before you brought in the next person. So that they weren't great, but they didn't need to be. They were just taking up space. So it was a lot of fun. Well, the fun continues with the next sketch, which is another, dare I say, classic.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
I know you do. Brad, I think you really like this sketch from what I remember. This is Candy Slice.
It's a great sketch. It's Gilda, kind of a different character for her, but as per usual, she completely embodies it. She's all in. Her entrance is fantastic when they can't find her and he opens the door and she does like a deadweight fall into Eric Idle's hands.
He has to drag her to the mic.
Yeah.
I love that. Just such good physical performances by both of them. He's just dragging her to the mic and kind of placing her there.
She almost hits the ground. She does such a dead fall and he needed a half a second more and she would have hit the floor. So he did a really good job at catching her. But man, that's trust right there when she just lets it all, literally all fall.
Mm-hmm. This is 1978 moment, miming snorting coke throughout the sketch.
Yeah.
Let's put miming in air quotes.
Oh,
maybe.
I mean, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. I don't want to cast, but I just wrote down this is 1978. They wouldn't even mime that nowadays on SNL, I don't think.
No.
Yeah.
No.
It's another great way for Bill to be good. He gets his Jerry Aldini character in who's just priceless. Like you're saying, Thomas, let me talk to you. Here's a Tootski.
To everyone.
Eric Idle. Oh, I'll talk to you. To everybody. Eric Idle goes over twice. It's great.
He goes over to talk to Jane at one point. Yeah.
Yeah, because John's all pissed that they're not there and they're wasting time. He's like, come here, can I talk to you? And they never mind, we're good.
It's fun. I mean, a lot of people are in this sketch. There's a lot going on. There's the band. Howard Shore's playing the keys. Paul's Schaefer's playing the drums.
Paul's on drums for some reason.
With a symbol behind him. Did you notice that? There's the one symbol that's he's playing it. I mean, he's using it, but yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Gilda and John almost broke when Gilda spit the booze on John.
Yes, she did.
You could tell they had to kind of get it together. But that was a great, funny moment. Candy demanding that the backup singer cut her hair before she sings.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
And then okay, I guess that's what we're doing. So they cut the poor backup singer's hair. Just
too shiny. It's distracting.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of buildup though, which is an interesting choice. So I guess was more common back then, but a lot of buildup to get to what I think a lot of people were waiting for was to see if Gilda was going to perform as this character. And she does, and she makes it well worth it, I think.
Let's go.
My blouse. It's got the rhythm, high heel feet, pants to go with them. I am hot, don't need no bra. Got what it takes to make a star.
It's great. It's so fun watching this song.
The band is really good. Gilda and the Lorraine and Jane are really good. They sing multiple verses. It's very good.
Did I hear the lyrics right? Does she say at one point, like, if you look close, you can see my tits?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I did hear that. Okay.
She does. Mm-hmm.
It's got everything. It's written well. It's performed well. You've got music in there. It's got, most of the it's just really good. Just everything in here is great.
Yeah, I love watching Gilda too. She makes a really convincing punk singer. She's such a fun physical performer. Like, to me, this goes, I know people talk about Rosanna Dana and all this stuff. To me, this goes up near the top of Gilda's highlight reel, honestly. Like, this encompasses a lot, almost everything that I love about Gilda.
They showed this as her in memoriam clip for one of the anniversary shows, right?
Maybe the 40th.
I think it was the 40th.
She just does so much. Verbal, nonverbal, like physical, like you said,
Physical,
she
yeah.
just does so much in this sketch.
It's really great.
Yeah.
And I think everyone in it is really good too.
Mm-hmm.
Stone Cold classic.
2 classics we get this episode.
So far.
Yeah.
Well, we get a classic character next, but maybe not a classic sketch. We get another edition of Consumer Probe hosted by Joan Face. So she brings on Erwin Mainway to talk about his endangered species fashions.
A lot of Jane tonight.
A lot of Jane, a lot of
Like
Dan.
small supporting roles, but a lot of Jane. Yeah, and Dan. That's a good point. Yeah. Dan, you expect a lot of. It's surprising to see Jane as many sketches as we have.
He basically, has folks come out and do a fashion show, and they show some South African brown hyena with trumpeter swan slippers. Bill comes out with a real alligator on his shirt, and his golf club's made from Pine Barrens tree frogs.
What is Bill doing when he's out there? Is he like looking for his ball? He's got this weird bit of business where he doesn't know what to do, and he's like looking in the distance.
I think he was trying to take the cover off of those golf clubs for a little bit, and he was having trouble.
Just looked very uncomfortable out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. The whole sketch is absurd.
Yeah.
The bar for Erwin Mainway is so high that I felt like this didn't reach it. And if it hadn't been that, it may have been funnier with some of these bits, but I don't know. I really liked the trumpeter swan slippers that Gilda, I think, or Lorraine was wearing.
Some of these were horrifying. Like, yeah, the alligator embryo, you said, the swan slippers.
Yeah.
Like, these were, I think they did a good job of carrying on the spirit of Erwin Mainway and being a slime ball, selling these things. I love, like, coming up with endangered species fashions. Like, yeah, that's something, to me, that fits something that Erwin Mainway would sell. Like, I think that had to be really fun for them to think of, like, what can Erwin Mainway sell that would be such slime ball stuff that would horrify people? How about endangered species? Like, yeah, I think it kind of fit. The execution wasn't totally on par, especially the first one. But I don't know. I didn't have anything real like negative to say about this one.
I didn't love this one. And the reason being, to what you're talking about, Thomas, is what I love most about the Erwin Mainway character is he's usually like he's trying to convince Jane that his products are safe or they're okay or that she's wrong and he's right. And here in this one, it's like he knows he's wrong. He just doesn't care. He's like, there's no fight in him. He's like, whatever. Like, he didn't give a shit. Like,
yeah,
he's like, come on, what are you talking about? Look at this. No big deal. You can play with this. You can do this. That's what was always fun to me, the interaction with the two of them. And in this one, it was a noticeable change of the character where he's just like, what? I don't care. That's what I'm doing. This is me.
Right.
You like the veneer. I agree with that.
The others are a lot of him doing the actual selling. This is just
right.
like,
He's
look
just
at them.
passing up. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's less Dan. I don't know, less intense Dan, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's on its way out. This is our last Consumer Probe proper we get. I think we get Erwin Mainway one more time, and we will get Joan Face on a couple other shows. But so I think they're kind of realizing too, like maybe the characters run its course.
Well, after this, Eric Idle comes back on and introduces a film by Aviva Slesson, who was the editor on the Ruddles film All You Need Is Cash. Right? She was the editor?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And the film they show is, well, it starts out with Bill on the phone, and he is an agent for this talent, and it turns out that it is a canine chorus, and it's just dogs barking to different songs.
Man, you guys, this film was rough.
Oh, Thomas.
Thank you. Where's my
good night, everybody?
Where's that crowd that I brought in earlier?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry, I'm slow on the uptake here.
Okay, thank you. But really, though, pun aside, this sucked.
Oh, the
respectfully.
Honestly, the best part was he says they did Don Kirshner's kid's bar mitzvah.
It was nice to see Bill Murray. I don't know. I thought it was bizarre and silly. I thought it, again, it's back to that season 2 vibe. It's weird, random, bizarre, Gary Weiss-esque stuff you're going to throw on TV.
That's true.
It was short.
It was short.
It was short. Yeah.
I don't know. I was kind of drawn into the dogs barking to Hava
Nagila.
I kind of bought it. I was like, oh, kind of works. I see what they're doing. All right.
You explaining it like that is funnier than the execution, I think.
Oh, man.
It's like, will you tell me that? I'm like, oh, that sounds funny. I'll watch. But I don't know. Something about
that
it
with Bill Murray on the phone as their agent. What could go wrong? She'll go on to win an Oscar, by the way, for a documentary in the 80s.
About what?
Documentary stuff.
Oh,
I didn't even bother writing the year. I'm like, it's 86, 87, somewhere down there. No one cares.
There's no way that
no one even cares. They'll be like, whatever. Thomas will hate it, and they'll be like, who cares if she won an Oscar? Move on.
Well, good for her.
Yeah, that's great. Good for her and her documentary stuff.
Cue applause.
Well, we move on to Cochise at Oxford.
Speaking of bizarre and silly.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh,
Yeah.
Jesus.
So Eric Idle plays the professor with most of the cast as the students at Oxford. And that goes on for quite a while.
Quite a while.
And then Bill comes on as Cochise.
At Oxford.
At Oxford. I don't know. I don't even know what to say about this. Like, where does it even go? There ends up being a hatchet thrown at Eric Idle, the professor. And it ends with him saying, "Who threw that?"
That's the only thing that made me laugh this whole sketch.
Who threw that?
I thought that was, who threw that? Like, it was like a tomahawk or something that he threw.
Yeah, that's it.
I like this one a little bit, actually. This was written by, I'm going to mess up his name again. What do you say, Brian McConaughey? How do you say Brian's last name?
McConaughey?
Yeah, I always mess it up. But this is, I think, the second sketch we've seen of his this season. And it's, again, we mentioned last time, he takes these two kind of things that should never live in the same world together and put them together. I think this is the sketch, and we might have referenced this, that Belushi threatened to quit the show if he didn't put this on. Him and Brian were friends back from the Lampoon days, and Brian had worked on this and wanted to put the sketch on. And John, trying to, wield the Animal House power that he has, Brian's told the story that John threatened he was going to quit the show if they didn't put the sketch on. So that's how we see it, or how we get to see it. But I didn't love it after I first saw it. And then as I started thinking about it, it's just, there's just so much going on. Like, Eric Idle just talks about subject to subject to subject. At one point, I'm like, how did we get to ducks pissing? Where they did the whole diatribe, like, how does a duck piss and not step in the urine? He starts hopping on one leg. I'm like, how did we even get to this point? It's like great Eric Idle work. This is my sketch, though, where I said, I had my note where they're talking about Cochise or being Indians, and they go to the question, woo woo or India? And that was my 1978, baby.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You know, I'm not interested in a sketch when I start zoning out and I'm trying to develop theories on why they about the blocking of the sketch. So I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So the back row, they were sitting this way, and then so that must mean, like, I was paying attention more to the blocking at a certain point than I was.
I was paying more attention to the blackboards because the blackboards were full of stuff. Yeah, same thing.
Yeah, because it's just Eric Idle just going on and on and on and on. And then, like, Bill comes in, maybe halfway through the sketch and introduces Cochise. But then he just sits there and does nothing until the very, you're like waiting for something to happen until the hatchet joke at the very end. But I don't know. Something about it, I think I admire Eric Idle just rambling through it all. I thought that was really good. And then to get you to the hatchet joke was, I don't know. I liked it.
Seems like you're in the best mood out of the three of us today, Brad.
I think I am. Kate Bush aside. It's also weird. You know what, though? It's also weird, since we're closing to the end, like, how this didn't end the show. It's weird that we do this and then we do Kate Bush and she's the final piece. It almost feels like this is your 10-to-1 piece. Like, end the show with this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was surprised by that too.
I also like this sketch. One of the things Gary always makes fun of me for, but sketches where they fall in a show. This show was so good and had so much fun stuff that a sketch like this late in the night plays well. And I think I was to your point, Thomas, I was in such a good mood of watching everything that I was more open to a sketch like this on this episode.
Mm-hmm.
I think I probably would have enjoyed this more if it wasn't set up like a show and there was no mention of Cochise at the beginning.
Yeah.
It was just like if it started with Oxford University and it's Eric doing his crazy thing, and then you introduce the weird bit of it, then I think I would have liked it more.
Yeah, you didn't set it up as a TV show. I hear what you're saying. I for whatever reason, I do get that point. Yeah.
Because it kind of gave away the joke, right? Like in the beginning, and I was like, "What are we doing here?"
Oh,
which is more so like current SNL gives away the joke. I don't expect that from early SNL necessarily.
Yeah,
even though obviously it did happen.
That's an excellent point. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, now I'm out. Thomas went out with his rough joke. I'm out with my good point. We're all good.
Good.
Just you, Brad.
Don't leave me here to talk about Kate Bush, please.
You didn't like this one, Brad?
I'm not negatively. I feel, people have different tastes, and I just didn't really love it.
You didn't like the song or the performance or just any of it?
Either or. I couldn't. And again, I know, I guess, later Kate Bush stuff, and it's not like I dislike Kate Bush. But I hadn't heard these two songs before, so I was kind of psyched to hear them and see what I thought. They were both, even this one too was a little sparse for me. I wanted like kind of more of a song, more music, kind of more whatever. And the outfit threw me off.
She's in a trench coat with knee-high boots and a fedora.
Little Carmen Sandiego vibe.
Yes.
A very Carmen Sandiego. But Thomas, as a Kate Bush fan, like this is a good tune, like good performance of a good tune.
I think it fits her. Like it's very musical theater, which I kind of expect from that era Kate Bush. I guess nowadays or 10 years ago when she had that residency, she did a little bit of that, but a lot of it was just kind of her. Is kind of stripped down, just her on stage, just not. So I think this was like, especially for late 70s Kate Bush, like I enjoyed like how it seemed like again, like musical theater element that, them heavy people. There was a good performance of that song. I like more mid 80s to late 80s Kate Bush, honestly. So I would have loved to hear perform. Obviously like running down that hill is a good one. Rocket's Tail is a song that I really love from her from the late 80s. But as far as like late 70s Kate Bush, I thought this was fine. I enjoyed this more than the first performance because there's just a little bit more visually interesting to me.
Yeah, I could see that. This song did go on to be number 3 in Japan, where it was released as a single. I believe is the only place it was released as an A-side.
One of these songs had just been released as a U.S. single. Maybe it was the first song.
The first one. It was. It was released in May. Yeah.
Okay.
But that's it. That's our show. They come on for very quick goodnights.
Crowd is really excited.
They should be.
Crowd was very excited.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think they just watched a very good show.
I agree.
Probably the best show of season 4.
I think so. There's a lot, especially I really, really liked it. And then talking with you guys, I feel like I like it even more. Yeah.
I imagine this would be hard to top. Like this was an excellent episode of SNL. I think this had the Weekend Update was solid. You had a memorable musical guest. I would say this is an historic episode of SNL. You got French Chef and Candy Slice debuting, Chico Escuela debuting. Like to me, this is a historic episode.
Kate Bush's only U.S. appearance.
This might be hard to top in season 4, in my opinion. But I haven't looked at the whole lineup and I forgot, but this is tough to top.
As we kind of talked about earlier, it's got those season 2 vibes, which you said, Thomas, quality, like the season 2 quality things are there.
That would explain why I really like this episode because I love season 2 still. So this was a great episode. So Thomas, what are your best bits?
Oh man, best bits from this great episode. I have a laundry list, but I'll do like 4 of them. French Chef. Oof. Obviously, French Chef, Chico Escuela, and Father Guido Sarducci from Weekend Update. I think both of those were fantastic. And Candy Slice, just possibly my favorite thing Gilda's done on SNL. Just such a classic, memorable thing. So those are my best bits.
Brad, what are your best bits?
I had French Chef and Candy Slice, obviously. And I think I'd agree with Thomas, too. I'd put at least Guido Sarducci up there, if not him and Chico.
I agree. I actually had all of Weekend Update just because I felt like as one solid piece, I think that was one of the best Weekend Updates.
It's one of the better ones we've seen in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yes, French Chef and Candy Slice as well, because you just can't not put those on there. So
thanks for giving me a great episode, you guys.
Thomas, nothing but the best for you, buddy.
Did either of you catch at the end of the closing credits, they say for next week, Don Pardo says it's Bob and Ray are special guests and Mr. Mike, which I don't think he shows up next week.
I did not.
Yeah. He promos the Elliot Gould episode, and we'll see.
We'll see. We'll find out next week.
We will.
Thomas, thank you for joining us. It's always a pleasure to have you.
Thank you, buddy.
Oh, yeah, that was awesome, guys. Thank you so much.
Welcome to the Five Timers Club.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for letting me bring my my crowd, my audience with me.
Pulling a Milton Berle. Well played.
But that was awesome. Really appreciate both of you.
Aside from hosting Bill Swirsky's Tournament Talk when Bill Swirsky's not available, tell folks where else they can.
Yeah, so Tournament Talk, I've been having a blast. When Swirsky's not available, I get asked to do this, so it's been fun. Pop Culture 5, myself and Jeremy Dove, we explore different pop culture topics and break them down, talking about the 5 essentials of each topic. So coming up this week, we have 5 essential Notorious B.I.G. songs. We're going to get into some hip hop. Notorious B.I.G., who I consider the greatest of all time in the rap community. I believe Jeremy's on the same page as me, so we'll listen to us just hype up and get just really excited talking about Notorious B.I.G. Love Christopher Wallace. And then next week, in honor of his recent passing, in tribute to his recent passing, we'll be doing 5 essential David Lynch movies on Pop Culture 5.
Awesome.
That'll be a weird one, possibly.
Yeah.
In David Lynch fashion. Yeah, so find Pop Culture 5, wherever you get your podcast. Brad, Gary, you've both been on Pop Culture 5. Brad, talking about Elton John. Gary, Quentin Tarantino. So we love having you. I'm sure we'll have both of you back. But wherever you get your podcasts, folks.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite listens, especially when you talk about music, because then I go and listen to that music and try to decide if you guys are right or not.
You wouldn't believe some of my best friends, childhood friends who I've known since elementary school. One of my friends text messaged me. He doesn't even say hello or great show. His texts just start with critiquing my lists. Critiquing, with your sports movies one, I don't think Jerry Maguire, I don't think this and that. I'm like, hey, Ryan, good to hear from you. So when you do a show like that, your friends and family and everybody just love nitpicking it.
Yeah. When you have an opinion show, people like to share their opinions. Yeah,
absolutely. No, it's fun.
It's a lot of fun.
Well, thank you, buddy.
Next week, we'll be talking the early years of SNL. We'll be talking about season 4, episode 9 with host Elliot Gould and musical guest Peter Tosh, and a special cameo with him.
Don't give it away now.
I didn't. That's why I said a special cameo. Also, special guests Bob and Ray, who were also mentioned.
And allegedly Mr. Mike. There's a lot to talk about.
Until then, good night and have a pleasant tomorrow.
And have a pleasant tomorrow.
Thanks for listening to the Not Ready for Primetime Project. If you're enjoying what you're hearing, please take a moment to rate and review the project wherever you find us. You can also drop us a line to let us know what you liked or didn't and what else you might like to hear in the future at nr4ptproject@gmail.com. And lastly, you can find us on social media everywhere at nr4ptproject. Thanks again for listening.
Or perhaps a delicious liverwurst which you can spread on a cracker, a Ritz cracker, a saltine. Or on bread, a rye bread, a pumpernickel bread, or if you're celebrating the Jewish holidays, you can make a chopped liver and shape it into the bust of a friend. Someone who's getting married or bar mitzvahed. Is that it? Am I pronouncing it right? A bar mitzvah? I hope so. Or if you have a pet, a cat or a dog, they love liver, save the liver. Don't throw it away. I hope I've made my point.